StraighTallDay.com.
You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. What is that? That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is, we are on part 2 of our 2-part mini-series / rebuttal of the question, can a little guy still make it in America? We answered why the little guy could make it. Yes, they can still make it, very much make it, but there is an argument that says, no, the little guy cannot make it, and I am making the case for them while at the same time giving you my personal opinion on some of these talking points of those who say the little guy cannot make it here in the United States of America. Because my personal opinion is that anybody can make it in the United States. If you ain't going to make it here, you ain't making it nowhere. So let's get right into it. Pick up where we left off. Again, this is part 2. If you missed part 1 of this mini series, then check part 1 in the previous episode. Point number 4. Artificial intelligence and automation are effectively replacing jobs and replacing people. Is this happening? Hell yeah, it's happening. Some of you have already been downsized and right-sized by a business that you were previously working for because they have now come up with automation and artificial intelligence that has rendered you completely irrelevant. They don't need you anymore, so they fired you because now they have systems and software that can do what you used to do. Bye-bye humans. And if you work at a place where this is possible, it's going to happen. All right, if you are a checkout person at a grocery store, you might have already been right size. If you work the counter at a fast food restaurant, you have already been right size, or you're on your way to being right size. If you work at a factory where you pick and pack things into envelopes and or onto a truck, they are working on computers, right? They're working on software right now. Some geek who is a really good coder is working on some software right now that's going to program a robot that is going to replace you, and you will not have a job anymore. Is this happening? Yes, it is. And the people who work at these kind of jobs are the kind of people who won't, if they don't have the skill set, they just will be completely out of the job market. Is this happening? Oh, it's happening. Very true. And it's creating a precarious situation for anyone who is not able to or is not looking to leverage AI and automation to make yourself more formidable in the marketplace, which is what all of you need to be doing, by the way. There's the hint right there if you didn't catch it. I understand. Every single person who does any kind of work in a professional space, it does not matter what you do, including myself, entrepreneurs, employees, high-level professionals, all of us are going to have AI and automation encroaching on our territory. Again, this applies to every single person listening to this right now. All right, there is no one who is not susceptible to this. All of us are going to have AI and automation encroach on our territory. The key is, if you want to survive, you must find a way to leverage these things and have them working for you to give you more of an advantage rather than sitting stagnant and having them come and cannibalize your very existence in the marketplace. What's happening right now is that a bunch of you and some of you who are not listening, some humans who are not listening, many humans who are not listening, and some of you who are, is that you're sitting around and waiting for AI and automation to cannibalize your existence to where you no longer are relevant in the marketplace and you have nothing to replace it with. You have no recourse. I'm telling you, don't let that happen. For those who do let it happen, many of them are not listening to the show, they're simply going to be out of work and there'll be nothing for them to do. That's what's going to happen. There will be nowhere for them to go because they're sitting around allowing this to happen. And they're one of the little guys who won't be able to make it, not because they're one of the little guys who won't make it, not because they're not able, but simply because they didn't have the insight, nor they have the motivation, for lack of a better term, to go do something about the oncoming situation. They know it's coming, but they ain't doing shit about it. Any of you who know something's coming and you know that thing might hurt you, you shouldn't just sit there and let it happen. It's like if you're in a boxing ring and you see the person you're fighting against loading up their right hand to punch you in the face, you shouldn't just stand there and watch them punch you in the face. It's probably a bad idea. You're going to wake up on the floor. Instead, you might want to move out the way or block the punch or hit them first before they hit you. Do something. Don't just sit there and let the punch hit you in the mouth. Everybody understand this. So do not sit stagnant and allow these things to take over your job and render you irrelevant because they will if you don't do anything about it. There are a bunch of people who are being rendered irrelevant right now because they are doing exactly this, sitting around and waiting for the inevitable to overtake their very existence. You should not be one of those people because I'm sitting here yelling in your face and warning you that this is coming. Point number 5. Today's topic, once again, is can the little guy still make it in the United States of America? This is the rebuttal saying no. Here's the 5th reason, is that there are people trapped in debt just from their education alone. These people could be in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, still trapped in debt from an education that they finished, quote unquote, finished a long time ago. Despite all this talk about the increased cost of college and people being caught with debt that they had to pay down from their college loans, there's a book called The Debt Trap that you should read if you have not read it. College enrollment, believe it or not, is actually increasing. More people are going to college now than were in the past. And despite the fact that everyone's talking about how much college costs. Now, of course, you had the Biden administration claiming to forgive a whole bunch of student loans. Those loans are still being paid. It's not by the person who took the loan out. This is a whole other conversation. But as of this recording, we have a Republican administration that is not forgiving anything. All right, they're making you pay your bills. All right, same thing they're doing in all these other countries with the tariffs and that whole conversation. But more people are signing up for college. I think regardless of what's happening with the administrations, more people are just signing up. So with more people going to college, the financial issues still existing. That means there are going to be more people with more financial debt from more education. It is not necessarily going to college is a bad thing. I mean, I myself have a college degree. Many of the people who I work with and work on Your Game University, many of them have college degrees, especially those of you who are working as professional services as entrepreneurs. You're working in the finance space, you're working in the legal space, you're working in any type of space where you're offering professional services. Often you got that degree to get a foundation of how you deliver those professional services. So there's nothing wrong necessarily on the surface with getting a degree. The problem is more people are being saddled with the debt from getting that degree, and they do not have a tool or a method or a vehicle from which to get out from under the debt. And then more and more people are just signing up for it because they may not see another way of making things happen in their lives, which is interesting to me. But I also understand it because there are many parents who are still to this day conditioning their children with, hey, what you're supposed to do is go to school, graduate, go to college, get a degree, and based on that degree, you'll live a better life than if you didn't have the degree. Is this still being taught to children? Hell, yes, this is still being taught to children. And I understand why children grow up believing that this is what they're supposed to do. The financial issue still exists, however. So combine that with all the other things we talked about so far in this mini series. This is making it an even tougher situation for people who are paying back student loans while working at jobs that are not providing enough money to get them out of the red of the student loans. So one simple reason I believe that more people are either going to school or going back to school is because going to school can get you a degree, of course, and the degree sets you up for a specific career track in which you at least you know you will have a job and a certain amount of income that comes with the job. I mean, at least you believe you know you'll have a job and a certain amount of income that comes with the job. There's a reason why a lot of people I had asked this question once and I went into a search to find out what it was. Why do so many people who work in politics have law degrees? Why do so many people in politics have a law degree? Even though they never actually practiced law, but they all got law degrees. Why is this? Well, I found out why. The reason is because a law degree provides a very highly structured career track. You do this, get this degree. Then with that degree, you can go get this job, this job, this job. You can always go work at a law firm as a fallback, but it's a great structured system. And you notice a lot of politicians have a law degree because they wanted a structured system to follow. And all of them are really good at following structured bureaucratic systems. I'm not saying that the legal system is structured and bureaucratic, even though it is, depending on what area of the legal system you go into. There's private, there's all different ways you can do it, different bureaucracies you can work in from the federal to the local. But you'll notice that the government itself is a highly bureaucratic system with a whole lot of red tape and a whole lot of structure. Whether you like the structure or not, there's a lot of structure in there. And a lot of people who work in the government came from the law area because they're very used to working in structures that are highly bureaucratic. So it doesn't disturb them to be in a highly bureaucratic system because that's what their law degree trained them to do. Not to say that everybody with a law degree wants to be in a highly bureaucratic system, but if you have one, you're not disturbed by being in a system like that because that's exactly what it trains you for. And I'm painting with a broad brush here, but all of you understand, especially those of you who have law degrees, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So many people go to school because they just want to be on a career track that'll set them up for a better thing. There's a guy who was in my university years ago. I remember him saying, I won't say his name. I remember him saying that he had a business, not saying, but we knew He had a business that he was working on outside of his career, and he also had a career. He had a 9-to-5 job and a career, and he also had his business. And his challenge was he was trying to decide what should he do with the financial resources he had. Should he use the money to go pay for going to more school or use his time? It was financial and time resources. Should he use that to go and pay for more school? Because if he went to get more schooling and another degree or pass certain classes, whatever the situation was, he could then qualify for a higher paying role at the job that he had, and therefore he would focus on his career. Or should he use his time and financial resources to invest in the business that he had, his side hustle that he had going, and instead try to make the side hustle basically replace his job and become an entrepreneur? Ultimately, he was the one who had to make the decision. And his ultimate decision was, I'm going to put my resources into going to school, getting more knowledge and information so I can further invest into my career rather than investing more into my business. That's not the decision that personally I would make. I have more of an entrepreneurial mindset and more of a risk-taking mindset. But at the same time, I completely respect and understand that 95% of people will probably do the same thing that this guy did, which is put my resources into the career track, because at least it gives me a structured and quote unquote guaranteed path to follow. It's guaranteed till it's not guaranteed, but I understand the position. I completely understand it. So this is the reason why many people go back to school, because school is it's dangling the bait of a structured, guaranteed, clear path for your career, as opposed to entrepreneurship, which is not structured. It is not, hell no, it's not guaranteed, and it is extremely risky. I completely get it. I think that in uncertain times, most people go looking for something that provides at least the outside signs of stability, appears to be somewhat guaranteed, rather than anything that looks risky that will require you to bet on yourself. And again, when you bet on yourself, there's no guarantee that you're going to win. You notice when people talk about betting on themselves as successful individuals, you notice people only tell that story after they win their bets. But you notice nobody tells a story about betting on themselves when they lost. Even though most people who bet on themselves lose, you only hear the stories about the people who bet on themselves and won. So be very careful with that whole bet on yourself line of reasoning, because it sounds good only when you win. It doesn't sound too good when you just lost everything. So based on my personal experience, school opportunities and betting on yourselves creates more opportunities for those. Well, betting on yourself creates more opportunities when you're willing to take a risk and become an entrepreneur. But you have to be willing to take a risk. And I completely understand that in challenging times, and in a time that a person sees as challenging, they don't want to do too much betting on themselves, because you don't want to risk anything that you might possibly lose and you don't have a way of getting it back. So I completely understand why the little guy sees that this increased cost of school is trapping me, but at the same time, you don't see a plan B, because you don't want to take any risk in a time that you don't think is very prosperous for someone like yourself. I get it. And that's why you feel stuck. And that's why you feel like you can't make it. I get it. Point number 6. Today's topic, once again, is, can a little guy still make it in the United States of America? Here's the 6th reason why many people say no. The financial system favors the wealthy. Well, I was just listening to this documentary. I mean, it was on video, but you don't really have to look at it to understand it. This documentary about PBS Frontline. They make a lot of very good documentaries. They have over the years, and these documentaries, some of them are actually years old, but they put them all on YouTube. So you can watch these documentaries or listen to them. Most of them are about an hour, maybe 2 hours long, and they're actually very informative of helping you understand certain industries and certain but world stories and things like that. So there was one about the credit card system, and explain how the credit card system became what it became, and how what we know as usury, which is basically exploiting people when they have debt, and how the credit card system found some loopholes, or the credit card companies found some loopholes when it came to exploiting people's debt and basically getting them hooked on, consumer credit, consumer debt, basically through credit cards, and how the credit card system set itself up to actually do this, and how the government was complicit and actively involved in allowing them to do it because of the money that the credit card system was able to collect, and the money that they continue to collect to this very day. You should listen to that or watch that documentary on PBS Frontline. Just go to PBS Frontline's YouTube channel, look up the videos on the credit card system, and you'll see it. And I'm saying all that to say, does the financial system favor the wealthy? The answer is hell yes, it does. It always has. Again, this ain't new. The financial system has always favored the wealthy, and no matter where you go in the world, the financial system there favors the wealthy. So this is not limited to the United States of America. Financial systems everywhere favor people with money. It's just like the fitness system favors people who are in shape. I mean, what do you expect? Were you expecting a different answer? Of course. Every system favors the people who are really good at playing the system. Again, is this news to you? It shouldn't be. This is very true, has always been true, it will continue to be true. Who makes the financial system, folks? Who runs the financial system? The people with all the fucking money. What do you expect? So of course they set the system up to favor themselves and not to favor anybody else. Let me ask you a question. If you are the person with holding all the chips, are you going to set up the system to help you, or are you going to set up the system to help everybody else? Probably one that helps you more than it helps everybody else. Maybe it helps everybody else too, but you're probably going to set it up to help you. Why? Because you're human. It doesn't make you a bad person, it just makes you human. So the whole framing of the only way someone can become a billionaire is they got to do something bad, or they got to be unethical. That's bullshit. That's a bullshit loser framing that was taught to you by some bullshit losing people who got that ingrained in their heads, and then they taught it to you. And this is bullshit. If you had that in your head, I strongly suggest that you exterminate that thought as quickly as possible, because it is going to put you in a position of being a loser, and it's going to keep you a loser if you already have it. Whenever someone has the advantage, they're going to do things that help them exploit their advantage. Again, this is human nature. You would do the same thing. And if you're not doing it, simply because you don't have enough advantage to do it. Don't be mad at the players, be mad at the game. Whatever way whatever way you think people have rigged the system to be in their favor, I suggest you find a way to get on the side of the people who have the favor instead of sitting there complaining about it. I don't think this is something to complain about. I suggest that you just find a way to join them. That's what I suggest. That's my opinion. However you want to describe them or define them, you should learn how to play the game the way that they're playing it, because obviously they're winning. So what you going to do? Just sit there and not win? How do they live? How do they think? What decisions do they make? If they have $1 versus when you have $1, what do they do with their money versus what you do with yours? Again, you don't have to be one of them to start copying their behaviors, because what happens is, we know the be, do, have principle. You start being them first, then you do their thing second, and then you have their outcomes third. So again, you don't have to, by virtue of material possessions, be one of these people to actually be one of these people, if you get what I'm saying. Being is figuring out how they think and their habits and behaviors, which you can copy, even if you only got $1 and they got $1 billion. You can still start copying their habits before you have the billions of dollars. But it requires you to have an emotional shift in the way that you think about things, because the way they think about things, the way you think about things ain't the same. And there's going to be some emotional discomfort in the process of you changing your thought process to being more like their thought process. But it's not like it's impossible for you to do. It's actually very possible for you to do. It's just a matter of, are you willing to do it? That's actually what it comes down to. You can ask these same questions I just gave you, find the answers, and start operating and thinking like, quote unquote, the rich, even if you don't consider yourself to be rich yet. So this is not something to complain about. It's actually a great thing, because it's a great opportunity for those who are willing to be disciplined because you're paying attention. I would suggest that you start with books like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That's one. There's a book called The Millionaire Next Door. I forget who the author is, but go find it. It's very easy to find, very popular book. I would suggest you read some books by T. Harv Eker, Harve, I think it's Eker, T. Harv Eker. He has a bunch of books on millionaire mindset. Start with just those 3 books. You can start with just those 3 books. Then there's a book called The Soul of Money by Morgan Housel, Housel. I suggest you read that one as well. And there's any book that you come across that has anything to do with money and the way you think about money, I would suggest you read all of them, because none of them is going to steer you wrong. You're going to find some of the same principles over and over and over again in those books, and a bunch of things that go against the grain the way you think about money and the way you behave with money, and it will put you in a different frame of mind if you are willing to get uncomfortable. Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins is another one. Again, I'm not saying you have to follow by the letter everything in all these books, but you should read every one of them, because they're all going to challenge your ways of thinking. If you happen to be on this side of no, the little man can't make it, I suggest you just open your mind to some other things. That's what I'm saying. Point number 7. Today's topic, once again, is the little man. Can they make it in the United States of America still? And this is the rebuttals, and I'm giving a rebuttal to the rebuttals, as you can see. Number 7, the pay to play formula. Meaning what? That a lot of people believe, a lot of little guys, quote unquote, believe that the only way you can get in the game in the United States of America, the game of success, is you have to have money to even get in the first place. And if you don't have money, there's no hope for you. This is a concept that many people have been pushing for many decades. Often politicians are pushing this. And you don't hear celebrities saying this, because how are they going to say it? Because they already got money, so they probably can't tell you this. But you hear a lot of politicians saying this, and they will grab onto any example they can find. You can use an example of, such as Donald Trump. His dad left him some money to get started, and they'll continue with the same belief with any example they can find. Oh, well, this person was born into money. Oh, this person was born rich. Oh, this person's parents had money, and that's the reason they're successful. And therefore, my parents didn't have money. Therefore, I am not going to be successful. So most people don't tell you the second half of the sentence, but that's what they're implying. This is bullshit. This is very false, and it's complete nonsense. Most of the millionaires and the billionaires in the United States of America, this is a statistical truth, ladies and gentlemen, are first generation. This is a cold glass of water and I'm throwing in your faces. Any of you who believes the little man can't make it because you got to have money to make money. Most, that means more than half of the millionaires and the billionaires in the United States of America are first generation millionaires and billionaires. In other words, their parents were not millionaires or billionaires. They're the first ones in their family to get there. What does that tell you? It tells you a couple things. First of all, you can do it in one lifetime. That's one thing it tells you. Secondly, it tells you that your parents didn't have to be anything for you to become that same thing. They didn't have to be X for you to become X. It doesn't take generations for it to happen. You could do it in one lifetime. Which means everyone listening to this has the opportunity to do it, regardless of who you are, where you came from, or what you're doing right now. Most of the people did it the same way that you could do it right now, starting off with not having anything yourself. Now, while I would tell people that even if 99% of millionaires and billionaires that we knew about, let's say 99% of them all started with some money, does that mean that you can't do it? The answer is hell no. That still means you could do it, because that means there's a 1% example of someone who did do it. You should look for that 1% and find out how can you do the same thing. Even if 100% of millionaires and billionaires all started with some money, does that mean it's impossible for you to be the first to do it? The challenge that a lot of people have is that they got to see somebody else doing something before they believe they can do it. Then it goes even further. They got to see most people doing it before they think they can do it. In other words, you're waiting for a guarantee in order to do anything. You want to see the majority of people achieving an outcome before you take any chances of you even investing anything, any of your resources in trying to achieve it. This is the reason why most people end up failures in life and they end up average. Why? Because you need to see the majority of people achieving a success in the thing before you think it's possible for you to achieve success in the thing. The problem is the majority of people are losers. So if you need to see the majority of people doing something before you do it, then you are setting yourself up to be a loser, because that's what the majority of people are. So what are we doing here? I'm just presenting the information to you. You do whatever you want to do. I'm just telling you what it is, and you can decide what to do with this. Because you got to live the life. Whatever you decide to do, you're the one who has to live with the outcome, not me. I'm just pointing it out. Being that the average person needs to believe that the odds are stacked in their favor, again, you're setting yourself up for failure if you need to see the average person doing anything, because the only thing the average person is doing is failing. Let's recap today's class. This is part 2 of our two-part mini-series rebuttal to the previous 2-part mini-series. Can the little man make it in America still? And here we are answering no. Number 4, artificial intelligence and automation are replacing jobs and people. Is this true? Yes. What should you do about it? Get on the other side of it so that you're using them instead of having them challenge you. You don't want to race against them. You ain't going to win. Number 5, people are trapped in debt from education. Is this true? Yes, it is. But guess what? More people are even still going to school. You got to decide if you're willing to take a risk when you're in a situation where you can go one way or another. Do you want to take a risk or do you not? It's up to you, but you got to live with the outcome. Number 6, the financial system favors the wealthy. Of course it does. The financial system is made by the people with money. Of course they're going to favor themselves, same way you would if you were the one devising a system. You would set it up to favor you more than it favors everybody else. What I suggest you do is find out how can you get on their side instead of complaining about the fact that the game exists, and learn how to play it. Number 7, pay to play. That you need money to even get in the game. This is nonsense. This is a bullshit belief that have been cooked up by, who knows, you probably got this from your parents or your teachers or by some other uninformed individuals out there who decided emotionally to agree to something, even though logically it does not stand up and is not true and is not based in fact at all. So you have a chance to, in one lifetime, go from nothing to something, and you could do this. There are plenty of examples of people doing it. All you got to do is, first of all, unlearn the bullshit that you have been emotionally taught to believe. That's the first thing you got to do, is get the nonsense out so we can get the good stuff in. If you're willing to do that, then there's opportunity for you. And where you can start is by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Have me as your direct coach, and let's get to work on your mindset first. Then we'll move into the actions. That's all happening again at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all